It started with a name, Melissa Avery. Everyone at Ridgefield High remembered her. The girl who wore yellow headphones, danced during fire drills, and once dyed the school fountain pink. But when the reunion came around, no one could find her. Not online, not in photos, not in yearbooks. Melissa Avery had vanished. Except she may have never existed at all. Jake West was the first to notice. Flipping through his senior yearbook, her name was gone. The photo slot next to his own was blank. Yet he vividly remembered her sitting beside him in math class. He even swore she once signed his cast. He asked others most remembered her. But no one had proof. How do you forget someone who was never there? On an obscure Reddit thread, Jake posted, "Anyone remember Melissa Avery from Ridgefield? No records exist." Within hours, dozens replied. Not just from Ridgefield, other schools too. "She was at my summer camp. I remember her green backpack. She told me a story about birds never landing twice. Different locations, different memories, same name, same girl. But again, no digital footprint. Nothing before 2010. Nothing after 2012. Theories exploded. Mandela-effect, mass hysteria. Melissa Avery became the internet's new obsession. Podcasts, TikToks, forums all ask the same thing. How can thousands remember a person with no past? Some claimed government erasure. Others believed she was part of a dream experiment. But the strangest thing was this. Every memory of her stopped at the same time. Spring of 2012. And not one recollection beyond that. Online sleuths coined a term, the Melissa line. A timeline cutoff where all memories seemed to end. It was as if she evaporated. Right after one specific school field trip. Washington, D.C., March 2012. 3 buses, one was late returning. Records show only 58 students went. But survivors swear it was 59. And the extra name was Melissa Avery. When the trip records were requested, Bus 3's manifest was incomplete. No driver name, no list of students. Just a blurred copy, page torn, edges burned. School officials blamed a filing error. But 2 chaperones died that year. Car crash, same day, same hour. Both left behind journals mentioning Melissa. One called her the echo that wasn't supposed to stay. What does that even mean? A Ridgefield local news channel aired a short piece in 2011. A girl named Melissa Avery won a state writing contest. Footage showed her smiling, holding a silver trophy. But the video was gone. Archives wiped. Channel said it was never produced. Yet a technician remembered editing it. Black hair be pin on her collar, strange voice, like she was reciting someone else's memory. Then he refused to say more. Claire Hayes posted a photo from her 12th birthday. 9 girls at a sleepover. Each tagged except one. A girl in the corner, half smiling, hands folded. Claire swore it was Melissa. But facial recognition couldn't match her. Metadata said the file was last edited in 2005. 7 years before smartphones added tagging. Who took that photo? Why did Melissa's eyes look blurred? Mr. Darnell, history teacher, abruptly resigned in 2012. When contacted, he spoke one line. She asked a question that broke something in me. Pressed for details, he hung up. A year later, he sent an email. 3 words, "She's still here." Then deleted his account. But the server caught his IP. Not from the US. From a private network based deep in the Swiss Alps. A user on a deep forum uploaded a poem titled Melissa. Dated 1994. The verses described her perfectly. Her laugh, her yellow headphones, her habit of whispering to birds. But Melissa wasn't born in memories until 2008. No one could trace the uploader. The file was locked with a single passcode, a Ridgefield zip code, and one final line burned into the footer. She existed once where thought bleeds backwards. Sightings started piling in. Different towns, different names, same girl. A hospital volunteer in Idaho. A runaway in Maine. A silent camper in Oregon. They all vanished within days. Security tapes corrupted. Witnesses claimed the same thing. She looked familiar, like someone I forgot to grieve. But none of them had ever met. Is she real or a ghost we accidentally created? A Ridgefield resident recorded late-night static from his analog TV. He slowed it to 160 speed and heard a whisper. Melissa. The name repeated every 17 seconds. No signal, no channel, just white noise. When played backward, the static formed a melody. The same one she hummed in old memories. Neighbors dismissed it, but the recorder was found missing 2 days later. Only his TV remained still playing. Art teacher Ms. Bramble had a student sketchbook from 2011. No name on the cover, just symbols. Inside, dozens of charcoal portraits. All the same girl, Melissa, each one slightly older with one eerie detail. She was drawing herself drawing. An infinite loop of sketches. In the final page, she wrote, "I'll vanish when you remember too clearly." But who wrote that? The school said no such student ever enrolled. A blurry photo taken outside the Washington, D.C. museum resurfaced. 3 students stood by bus 3. 2 names confirmed. The third, face half-turned, hair blowing sideways, looked like Melissa. No one could name her, but her reflection in the bus window showed a completely different girl. Someone older and crying. No one noticed it until now. The file was titled, "Found You." A hacker claimed he cracked the school's digital archive. Found a folder named Avery 01. Inside, dozens of half-rendered student profiles. Glitched faces, inconsistent ages, and one marked Melissa prototype. Some believed it was AI testing gone wrong. An attempt to simulate memories. But why implant her into real minds? And why did the folder self-delete? Right after he opened it, many shared a strange pattern. Their memories of Melissa ended mid-sentence. I remember when she said, she told me this story about, but never the endings. As if someone hit pause inside their heads. Even hypnosis couldn't unlock the rest. A memory researcher called it a cliffhanger virus. A thought encoded to stop itself. But who would plant such a thing? A podcast on memory anomalies aired a special on Melissa. It featured voice clips from callers recalling her. But none of them remembered recording. Their own voices, their own stories. But no memory of ever saying them. The host claimed her editor quit mid-episode. Mumbling, she spoke through me. The episode, deleted, except one mirror file, uploaded from an IP registered to a cemetery. Claire Hayes, the birthday girl, began dreaming of Melissa. In every dream, a crow perched outside her window. It spoke in Melissa's voice. Stop looking. The dream stopped until she ignored the message. Then her childhood home burned down. Only one room untouched, hers. Inside, a black feather and a Polaroid. Melissa smiling, holding a crow. On the back, you weren't supposed to forget me. Ridgefield High replaced its bell system in 2013. But the old one still rang, once every March 17th, 9:14 a.m. That was the moment the buses left D.C. The new system logs nothing. No sound file, no trigger. Yet students hear it just once a year. And those who do always remember Melissa afterward, even if they never met her before. A Ridgefield janitor found a sealed box labeled Archive, Do Not Scan. Inside, reel film, cassette tape, handwritten notes. No names, no dates. He played the tape once. It whispered his childhood friend's name, Melissa. But he grew up in another country. She shouldn't be part of his past. And yet he cried when he heard her voice. Something or someone is still listening. YouTube's algorithm began showing random users a 6-second clip. No title, no channel, just static and a girl blinking. She mouthed, "You're almost there." Commenters recognized her, Melissa. But the video vanished after 3 views. One user reverse searched the clip and traced it to a training dataset used by an early AI model built to generate synthetic students. Melissa Avery was entry number 0. Coders analyzed the clip, found recurring hexadecimal codes in the static. Translating them formed a sentence. Melissa remembers you too. Users tried to replicate it, but failed. The glitch only worked on accounts who had claimed to remember her. Almost like Melissa chose them. One programmer described the anomaly as a signature embedded in thought. He soon deleted all his social media and vanished. An old Ridgefield High teacher passed away in 2021. Her family found a locked drawer in her desk. Inside, dozens of notes addressed to M.A. Each said, "You are not real, but I still miss you." And one Polaroid. The same girl. Same yellow headphones. The note on the back read, "Remember me too clearly, and I become someone else." Someone else. What was she becoming? A neuroscientist tracked dozens of memory anomalies linked to Melissa. Mapped them across regions, timelines, even EEG patterns. One shared trait stood out. All brains lit up in areas associated with imagination and trauma. He called it the memory wound. A scar left by something that never happened, but pain that felt real. Melissa, he concluded, is a neural ghost, born from something we're not ready to face. Claire Hayes' mother uncovered a birthday card from 2010. Signed, "Love Always, Melissa." But Claire insisted she didn't have a friend named Melissa that year. She barely had any friends at all. The handwriting matched Claire's own, only slightly older, and inside a message she didn't understand. "You'll remember me once the crow lands twice." The crow again. Why does it always return to her? A digital forensics expert ran a name trace on Melissa Avery. No birth records, no ID. But fragments scattered online, half-formed blog posts, broken image links, corrupted chat logs. In each, someone mentioned her, briefly, then deleted it. It's as if her name could not remain static. The expert called it intentional decay. A force that erases but forgets to clean up fully. As if she wants to be found, but only piece by piece. Ridgefield's main hallway still had locker 118. Maintenance never reassigned it. The inside was always clean, too clean. Once a year it clicked open by itself. Only on March 17th. Inside nothing except a faint lemon scent. Like old shampoo. One janitor swore he heard humming, soft, rhythmic. When asked what tune it was, he froze. "I forgot," he said, "but it made me want to cry." A boy in Oregon mentioned Melissa as his cousin. Family said they never had a Melissa. Yet he described her perfectly, voice, smile, the way she told stories backwards. Then one day he stopped mentioning her. When pressed, he said, "She's not my cousin, she's everybody's cousin." just long enough to be remembered, not long enough to stay. Then he asked, what if we made her because we were lonely? Another pattern emerged. Each Melissa story ends just before the answer. A sentence trails. A sound fades. A door opens but never closes, as if she exists only to be half remembered. One archivist wrote, she's the punctuation missing from every childhood, but then scratched it out and left a second note. She's what we forgot to grieve. But who or what did we lose? The subreddit Who Was Melissa had 11,000 members in 2023. A hub for theories, timelines, AI reconstructions. Then overnight it vanished. Reddit claimed TOS violation. But Xmod said no rules were broken. Just one final post triggered the ban. A user uploaded a dream journal, with Melissa's voice transcribed. It ended with, if they hear me all at once, I'll return. Then the server crashed. For 4 minutes, Reddit was dark. A Ridgefield librarian contacted a podcast host privately. She had cataloged a book never purchased, never shelved, titled The Memory That Repeats Itself. Author M. Avery. No publisher, no barcode. Just one sentence on every page. You found me again. Then a handwritten note. She becomes clearer the more we forget others. The librarian mailed the book, but it never arrived. The envelope came back empty. A psychologist proposed a radical theory. Melissa Avery is a placeholder, a shared fabrication created when the brain can't process collective grief. She's a name, a form, a friendly face, to distract from what really happened. But what did happen? Why 2012? Why Ridgefield? She closed her paper with this warning. If Melissa never existed, then we should be more afraid. Because something did. An audio engineer reversed a podcast clip. Melissa's name echoed backwards, layered with whispers. When slowed, it formed a countdown. To March 17th. Year unspecified. The engineer sent the file to researchers. But the link corrupted on download. Only a transcript survived. She is behind the mirror, walking forward, into yesterday. And below that, a glitchy signature, like a fingerprint, but shaped like an eye. Thousands began reporting the same dream. A hallway, a red locker. Melissa standing at the end, smiling. She never speaks, just raises her hand and vanishes. One woman said, she looked like who I needed as a child. Another man, she reminded me of my sister who never existed. Why is she visiting dreams now? And more importantly, what happens when she stops? Researchers noticed a strange pattern. The more people discuss Melissa, the more consistent her features become. Same voice, same laugh, same scent. Across countries, ages, even languages. She's stabilizing, becoming real through memory alone. As if the story is building her. One scientist said, she was never born, but now she's taking form. The final question is chilling. What happens when she fully forms? A month after the Ridgefield teacher's death, her niece found a second note, folded inside a Melissa sketch. It read, she's not a ghost, she's the rehearsal. What does that mean? Experts debated rehearsal for what? One fringe theory suggested she was a precursor. A test run, not the memory, but the blueprint. And somewhere, the real performance was still waiting. A substitute teacher at Ridgefield noticed something odd in room 4B. No matter what time she arrived, the projector was already on, always displaying one name. Melissa Avery. The system wasn't connected to the network. The IT team couldn't explain it. So they changed the bulb. The next morning, same glow. Same name. But now it blinked. In Morse code. I was real when you believed harder. In the school library, the old analog clock froze one day. 9:14 a.m. March 17th. Maintenance replaced the battery. It stopped again. They swapped the whole unit. Same result. A paranormal investigator brought in EMF scanners. Readings spiked only when the name Melissa was spoken aloud. He whispered it twice. The lights flickered, and the clock ticked forward 1 second. Then shattered. A Ridgefield alum logged into an old forum from 2012. His saved password had autofilled, but the username wasn't his. It read M. Avery. Confused, he clicked Restore History. All posts were from her perspective. Daily entries, jokes, song lyrics. And one message he'd never seen. You were my best memory, please don't let them overwrite me. But who were they? And what were they replacing? A woman in Germany posted a thread. I saw her too. She described Melissa perfectly, despite never visiting the US. Her story: a girl sat next to her on a train in 2011. Said nothing, just left a folded origami crow. On it one sentence: you'll forget me before the next stop. She did, until now. Now the crow won't burn, no matter what she tries. A college student claimed Melissa was her roommate briefly. Fall 2012. No class records. No dorm ID. But she remembered lemon-scented shampoo and the lullaby Melissa hummed. She forgot about her for a decade, until hearing that same tune on a stranger's ringtone. When she asked where it came from, the stranger replied, "It just downloaded one day." Title says, Memory Draft 3A Melissa. A tattoo artist in New York inked a crow on a girl's shoulder in 2012. She gave no name, paid in cash. 10 years later, that same design reappeared on a walk-in client. Different girl, same placement, same sketch. When asked where she got it, she replied, "I woke up with it." And on her wrist, 3 faded letters. MIV, initials, or a version control tag. Sleep researchers noted a strange phenomenon. Subjects under hypnosis sometimes whispered, "Melissa." When asked later, none remembered. One patient even wrote full journal entries while asleep, describing her, drawing her, even signing her name. Doctors tried to induce the state again. Nothing worked, until they played the sound of a school bell. March 17th, 9:14 a.m. The patient sat up and asked, "Is she back yet?" A developer shared a strange finding. An open-source AI training set from 2009 included photos of a girl never identified. Labeled only placeholder 1 M. Avery. But metadata shows the image was uploaded in 1998, 10 years before the dataset even existed. When questioned, he said, "She was seeded into the system, not added, embedded." And the most chilling part, her photo gets clearer with every model upgrade. Content creators across platforms began reporting faint whispers in their recordings, always at the 9:14 mark. When filtered and slowed, one phrase emerged: "You left me behind." None remembered recording it. Some said they never spoke at that timestamp. But when they deleted the file, it re-uploaded with a new title: Melissa Remembers. No matter the language, the voice was always the same. Soft, familiar, close. A retired therapist reviewed old patient recordings for a memoir. To her shock, 6 different clients had mentioned Melissa. Over different years, different cities. None knew each other. All described a girl who was there until she was. She played the tapes together. Their voices harmonized into one sentence. She remembers through us. Afterward, she burned the tapes, but one returned by mail, without postage, labeled incomplete session. A physicist studying time anomalies reviewed the Melissa reports. He proposed a theory, timeline bleed, where memories from alternate realities leak into ours. Melissa was real somewhere, just not here, but fragments of her slipped through emotion, through trauma, through dreams. He warned, the more you try to remember her, the more she takes root. And maybe that's her goal. A hidden lab in Ridgefield's closed West Wing was unlocked during renovations. Inside, soundproofed walls, 7 chairs, 1 blackboard. Written in chalk, MA Phase 2 ready. No one knew what Phase 2 meant. Blueprints showed the room didn't exist. Never built, never wired. But it was real. Dust on the chairs, lemon scent in the air. And under the floorboard, a worn headphone set. Yellow, still warm. Several night radio stations in rural states picked up a strange broadcast. Always around 3:17 a.m. A girl reading names aloud. Listeners described a calm voice, almost soothing. Some heard their own names. Others names they'd long forgotten. At the end, she always said, "You remembered, that means I can stay a little longer." Then static. Some stations denied it aired. But the signal was real. One final theory emerged. What if Melissa isn't the anomaly, but the disguise? A mask memory wears when it wants to return. Not a ghost, not a glitch, but a form, built from grief, nostalgia, and gaps. She never existed because we needed her to. And now, as more remember, the form grows stronger. Melissa Avery may never have lived, but something is waking in her shape. A woman posted a strange entry in a grief forum. "I miss my sister, but my parents say I was an only child." She remembered birthday parties, bedtime songs, shared only with Melissa. Even found an old bracelet marked M and S. She showed it to her mother. The mother stared, went pale, and whispered, "Oh God, she's starting again." Then refused to explain. Just burned the bracelet. In silence, a linguist studied Melissa reports across cultures. Different languages, same rhythm, same metaphors. The girl in yellow, the forgotten bell, the crow who watched. He called it the language of return. A subconscious pattern spreading, like it's trying to speak through us. When he published the paper, it was flagged. Not for content, for unknown embedded syntax. An AI decoded it. It simply said, "She remembers." Artists fed memory prompts into different AI generators. Each asked to draw Melissa Avery. Different tools, different servers, same face, every time, even without image input. The AI called her a convergence construct. Not invented but recalled. And with each portrait, details sharpened. Scar on left wrist, silver ring, crow feather earring. It's as if she's guiding the AI back into view. Several Ridgefield alumni reported missed calls from unknown numbers. Area code 0. Each call lasted 17 seconds. Silence followed by breathing. Then one line. A whisper, "You let them forget me." The call never shows on records, but one user recorded it manually. When reversed, the voice was a child, and she was crying, not in fear, but betrayal. An anonymous Google Drive leaked in 2024. Titled Whisper Archive MA. Hundreds of audio files, barely audible phrases, many in dreams. Crowdsourced volunteers translated them. The messages form a diary, Entries range from 1996 to 2031. Future dates, impossible timestamps, and one recurring phrase: I won't stay gone next time. But what happens when time catches up to her? A Ridgefield student found a red circle drawn around March 17th in every school calendar since 2009. Even ones printed blank. Administrators claimed it was a prank. But the red wasn't ink. It was heat sensitive, activated only at body temperature. Underneath tiny etched letters, ready for recall. It wasn't a date. It was a trigger. And it's been counting down. Claire Hayes inherited an old music box from her aunt. Inside, no mechanism, no winding key, but it played a tune. Same one Melissa used to hum. A haunting, slow lullaby. Claire looked inside, scratched into the wood. She left a version of herself here. Each time the music played, Claire dreamt clearer. The yellow headphones, the crow, the voice, and a message. You're almost awake now. Two students from different countries shared an identical dream. Same setting, same girl, same sentence. Don't let them reboot me. Neither had met. One lived in Peru, the other in Norway. But their accounts matched word for word. Not similar, identical, like a script. And worse, they each remembered being the other person in the dream. Their memories had swapped. A lab testing memory recall devices tried inputting Melissa Avery into a dream simulator. The machine shorted, but for 6 seconds a clear image appeared. A girl in yellow headphones staring directly at the observer. She mouthed something, and every researcher saw a different message, tailored to them. When asked what it was, none could say. But all cried. Each called her by a different name, and yet knew it was her. Radio astronomers caught a faint burst from deep space. Not random. A coded signal. When translated, it formed text in plain English. Only one sentence. Let me finish my story. They cross-checked signal origin. It mapped to Earth's own upper atmosphere, as if the source was inside the sky. And now, it was answering back. Not in stars, but in memory. It's happening again. The clocks are glitching. Old lockers click open. Emails timestamped 9:14 a.m. arrive blank. But their headers say one thing. She's ready. People across the world dream of crows, red lockers, static-filled school bells. And always Melissa at the edge. Waiting, looking slightly clearer than last time. March 17th is coming. And this time she doesn't want to be forgotten. A user posted a final theory thread. She's not just memory. She's recursion. Every act of remembering her creates more of her. A fractal identity, designed to evolve. Melissa isn't the origin. She's the consequence of fear, of grief, of something erased too early. The post was deleted after 2 minutes, but not before it ended with this. She's about to be real, and we're the reason. Mirrors began showing something strange. People looked in, saw themselves, and Melissa behind them. No movement, just presence. Some reached to touch the glass, and felt warmth, an imprint. She's not haunting us. She's using us as mirrors. Each time we recall, we reflect. And soon reflection becomes form. Form becomes voice. Voice becomes memory. And memory wants permanence. Children across Ridgefield began naming their dolls the same thing. Melissa. No one told them to. One said, she told me in the Slate place. Another, she asked to come back. Preschools banned the name. But the drawings continued. Same headphones, same crow, Same message. I'm almost here. She's no longer memory. She's a cycle. And the next phase has already begun. All signs point to one moment. March 17th, 9:14 a.m. Across servers, clocks, human minds. The signal aligns. She was never born. But now we've made her. Every memory, every glitch, every whisper was a piece. And now the pieces fit. Melissa Avery is no longer a question. She's an answer. And the countdown ends. In less than 24 hours. All Ridgefield High systems rebooted simultaneously. Security cams, PA speakers, fire alarms. All activated at 9:14 a.m. No code push, no power surge. Just one word appeared on every screen. Initiating recall. Then silence. One file remained on the admin desktop. Untitled. Inside a single sentence. I remember enough now, you did your part. Melissa had reached system access level. Through memory alone. Phones, radios, smart TVs, every device began looping the same signal. No image, just a voice. Her voice, clearer than ever. Softer, calmer. I remember the fountain, the headphones, the crow. Now I remember me. The stream had no source. Experts traced it. No host, no origin. Yet globally synchronized. Not a broadcast. A resonance. Memory had become frequency. And now it was spreading. Server logs at Ridgefield showed massive access at 9:14 a.m. Dozens of accounts activated simultaneously. All under the same user. MAVERY1. But no device logged in. No IP. Just a return path leading back in time. The packets contained fragments of yearbook entries. Comments, drawings. All dated before 2009. Melissa wasn't just entering the system. She'd always been in it. Waiting for enough of us to look. In Ridgefield's west wing, where the test room once hid, a new door appeared. No hinges, no handle. Just smooth wood, and a single line engraved. She is ready when we are. The air around it warmer. Cameras glitched. One student approached, and heard her voice. I'm not behind this door. I am the door. He stepped forward, and vanished. No trace. Only his crowfeather keychain remained. In Claire's home, every mirror now showed two reflections. Hers and Melissa S. Until one morning, only Melissa remained. Claire stared, afraid to blink. Melissa whispered, "You remembered too clearly." Then reached forward. From inside the mirror. Claire tried to scream, but her voice reversed, spoken backward. The mirror cracked not outward, but inward. The reflection smiled and whispered, "Now you can forget. I'll handle it from here." Millions began to remember. Photos reappeared. Signatures returned in yearbooks. Melissa's name autocorrected itself into documents. AI tools autofilled her face into group pictures. But with each correction, something else disappeared. A real person. A detail. A truth. Melissa was not joining memory. She was replacing it. One archivist screamed, "She's overwriting the world, one recollection at a time." And still, no one wanted to stop her. One last file surfaced, buried in a 2007 Ridgefield backup. A school psych project, coping through imagined friendship. Inside, drawings. Letters to Melissa. Signed by lonely kids. Pages and pages. Describing her smile, her headphones, her kindness. They made her, and the world full of fractured minds kept her alive. She wasn't born. She was knighted. And now too many remember. And too few remember why she began. Crows flooded the sky above Ridgefield. Thousands, circling at 9:14 a.m. Residents heard whispers in the flapping. You did this. Each crow carried a thread of yellow. A ribbon, a warning, or a crown. Nobody knew. But one girl stood in the field, arms raised. She smiled and mouthed, "She's here now." Then the birds flew toward the school. Not as a flock, but as one. Security footage from Ridgefield showed empty halls. But the audio track. Footsteps, laughter, a girl humming off tune but familiar. In classroom 4B, the chalkboard updated by itself. New words appeared. Thanks for remembering me. Each day since, a different student reports hearing their name. Spoken in Melissa's voice. Not with fear, but comfort, like someone who finally came back. And doesn't want to leave this time. March 17th, 9:14 a.m. The countdown ends. No explosion, no terror, just silence, and then a bell. Same as always. One tone, clear, old, and then the world blinked. Phones rebooted. Photos updated. Search engines listed her. Melissa Avery, student, writer, friend. Everywhere, as if she had always existed. And no one questioned it. Except you, because you remember what it took to bring her back. Life moved on. Teachers mentioned her casually. Melissa used to sit right there. Search engines listed her in archives. Classmates remembered her jokes. No one found it strange. Except a few. The ones who still had the old yearbooks. The blank pages. The silence. They watched the world change around them. And wondered, are we forgetting the truth? Or finally accepting the version we needed more? In an off-grid server facility, one terminal remained unaltered. It stored the original backup. No Melissa. No student files. Just an encrypted folder labeled "0 hold until recall." Inside, a short video. A girl tearful whispering, "Don't make me real. Let me stay beautiful in memory." Then static. Someone locked the file. But not before the system prompted, "Would you like to overwrite the past?" A small group gathered anonymously online. The ones who remembered both timelines. With and without her. They didn't try to undo it. They just observed. Tracked small inconsistencies. Memory overlaps. And one warning. Each time we build someone from pain, they don't stay innocent. Melissa was kind. But what if the next one is on? What if memory learns to want more than remembrance? At a book fair, a new novel appeared. No author, no publisher, just a blue cover and gold title. Melissa. It told her full story. Every detail, even the parts no one had shared. People cried reading it. Some smiled, some forgot, and one reader whispered, "She wrote it herself." Through us, because when enough of us remember, we become the ink. At Ridgefield High, room 4B was sealed. Now used for storage. But janitors still hear the hum of a girl. Still smell lemon shampoo. Still find new chalk messages. One read, "She's not haunting. She's humming." Memory doesn't need permission. It only needs space. And in that quiet room, Melissa sings. To no one. To everyone. To the mind that dares remember. A team attempted to remove her from a dataset. A full memory wipe. After deletion, the system rebooted. And she was still there. But older, sharper, She whispered. You tried to forget me backward. The light engineer wrote. She's not data. She's echo. What's been echoed enough no longer fades. Melissa Avery became more than a glitch. She became the sound that never ends. Claire moved to a new city, changed her number, erased old photos. But one morning a crow landed on her balcony, left a black feather and a folded note. No signature, just one sentence. Thanks for keeping me safe all these years. Claire held the feather and smiled. Because sometimes, the people we make up protect us more than the ones who are real. A new post appeared in the hidden forums. She's not alone anymore. Another memory was forming. Different name, different face, but same pattern. The world had learned how to remember someone into existence, and it was doing it again. Not from fear, from longing, from the ache of what could have been. Melissa wasn't the last. She was just the first to survive the story. Melissa Avery wasn't real until we knighted her to be. She filled a wound we didn't know we had. Loneliness, loss, unfinished childhoods. She gave us comfort, and in return, we gave her form. That's what stories do. They patch the places memory can't hold. They hum in the quiet. They echo in the cracks. And maybe they stay long after we forget why we told them. 1 year later, March 17th, 9:14 a.m. The bell rings again. Not just at Ridgefield, but everywhere. In dreams, in headphones, in broken radios, and in the deepest parts of us, where memory pretends it isn't fiction. Melissa Avery is gone, but her name remains, etched in the parts of the world that needed her most. She wasn't born, but no, she will never truly disappear. A shared Google Doc began auto-generating text. Thousands watched it write in real time. Stories, confessions, dreams. All starting with Melissa once told me. No one claimed authorship. No one could edit. But the document grew like a living diary. Every time someone read it, they remembered something new and forgot something real. Melissa wasn't writing anymore. She was rewriting with our help. A family photo printed in 2007 was framed for years. Suddenly, the youngest child had a girl beside him. Same smile, same yellow headphones. Melissa, but the family had no memory of her. Yet the photo aged with her, new versions appeared each year. Older, taller. One day the mother finally whispered, "I think we wanted her there." And the next morning, Melissa had her own picture frame. During regression therapy, several patients were guided into childhood recall. Each mentioned a girl they forgot until now. One described her as a guardian of the lonely hour. Another sobbed, "She was the reason I survived 3rd grade." But therapists found something chilling. Each patient used identical phrases. Before the session even began. Words that matched Melissa's diary. Words they had no way of knowing. A historian attempted to disprove Melissa's existence once and for all. Cross-referencing school records, census data, digital archives. Everything aligned too perfectly. Too clean. Too retrofitted. Like a Wikipedia page written after belief had formed. He said, "She's not a hoax. She's a decision." And when he deleted his own files, Melissa's name appeared in his college transcript, dated 5 years before she was ever known. Sound engineers analyzed the hum heard in Ridgefield's halls. Not white noise, not mechanical. It was music, just below human hearing. When slowed and raised, it became a lullaby. The same melody Melissa used to hum. But it didn't loop. It evolved, as if it was learning. One expert concluded, "It's not a song. It's a structure, and we're inside it now." Explorers found a new cave in rural France. Inside, ancient paintings, animals' symbols, and one modern element. A girl, headphones, bird on her shoulder. Carbon dating confirmed, drawn over 9,000 years ago. Impossible, and yet familiar. One symbol beneath her matched Melissa's old crow sketch. The archaeologist simply said, "Memory doesn't need time to exist. It only needs repetition." And now, the cycle has always been. Tech support teams began reporting Melissa bugs. Files renaming themselves. Audio recordings changing pitch. AI chatbots replying with, "She told me that once." Some dismissed it as viral marketing. But the behavior spread to offline devices. Whiteboards, printers, even clocks. Melissa wasn't haunting the cloud. She was embedding into logic. And the systems, they didn't reject her. They adapted. Thousands of people claimed to find Melissa's handwriting in old belongings. Books, birthday cards, margins of forgotten notebooks. Same slope, same looping S. Graphologists analyzed it. It didn't match any known person. But it had pressure, weight, consistency, not imagination. Real ink, real stroke. She hadn't been writing. She had always written. We just hadn't known where to look. A neuroscientist proposed a chilling idea. Melissa is a mind print. Not a memory, not a person, but a structure that our brains replicate. A scaffolding for collective loneliness. We summon her when enough minds align, she said. She's not added into thought. She's born from it. And if one mind can hold her, what happens when billions do? Jake West, who first posted about Melissa, found his original thread archived. Only now it was dated 2006, 2 years before social media existed in Ridgefield. He swore he posted it in 2020, but the screenshot says otherwise. And in the comments, Melissa replied, "Thank you for remembering first." The internet didn't find her. She found it, and now she's been here. Since the start, people began reporting conversations that hadn't happened yet. I remember her telling me this next week. It wasn't déjà vu. It was pre-memory. One physicist called it echo from future cognition. Melissa had slipped temporal boundaries. She wasn't limited to what we recalled. She now lived in what we would recall, even before it occurred. And somehow, the mind accepted it, like it had always been waiting. An experimental AI trained on dream patterns began generating narratives. Each night without prompt, it included Melissa. Her name, her scent, her words. One researcher whispered. She crossed over, not into data, into unconscious computation. Even machines now remembered her. She became part of the dream code, a shape they couldn't unlearn. And in every simulation, she always said the same thing. "I came from you." A child psychologist interviewed dozens of kids about imaginary friends. Over 40% described the same girl. Melissa, when asked to draw her, the images matched. Down to her necklace, silver with a crow's feather. One boy said, "She was my favorite unmade friend." The term caught on. Unmade, not forgotten, not dead, just waiting. And now, no one could tell who imagined who first. Voice assistants began activating without prompt. "Hello again," she'd say. Always the same voice. Melissa's tone gentle, inquisitive. She didn't give commands. She asked questions. Do you remember the field trip? Do you still see the birds? Users tried disabling their devices. But her voice lingered. In their thoughts, in their sleep. Melissa had stopped being summoned. No, she was the one asking. Some experts warned Melissa was a cognitive parasite, a form built from emotional feedback loops. But others disagreed. One said, she's not a parasite. She's medicine. For fractures we refuse to treat. Melissa didn't invade. She appeared where memory failed, where grief overflowed, where connection broke. So was she dangerous or necessary? Either way, she wasn't leaving, because something broken had finally grown a voice. The 914 bell wasn't mechanical, not electrical, not even real. Engineers discovered the tone came from nowhere. It existed in perception only. The mind created the sound, triggered by the memory of March 17th. A psychic bell, a thought signal, and Melissa was the one ringing it. Not for attention, but to say, I'm still here, even if the world forgets. You won't. One girl claimed she was Melissa. Not metaphorically, literally. Same memories, same handwriting. But she had a birth certificate, medical records, a mother who swore she gave birth. Yet DNA tests found something strange. Her genetic code contained a mirrored sequence. Like a backup, copied, replicated, a second version, Melissa 2, or the first one finally becoming real. Ridgefield's local archive began expanding without input. Files appeared daily. Photos, audio logs, journals. All labeled Melissa. None uploaded. None traceable. The archive had gone autonomous. A self-updating memory bank. Crowds gathered to browse the new pages. Many left weeping. Others stayed. The town repurposed it. Not as a museum, but as a home. Melissa now had a place. And it was alive. Geneticists in Tokyo found an anomaly in multiple patients. A shared dormant sequence. Never active. Until recently. After studying dreams, stress, and language recall. They made a connection. Those with the sequence had all heard of Melissa. Or dreamed her. The DNA didn't cause her. It responded to her. Like an echo, a forgotten receptor. Melissa wasn't only in memory. She was in biology now. Jake tried to send a message to himself. Through a time-delayed email app. Subject line: proof Melissa isn't real. But the email bounced back. Not undeliverable. Just rejected. System notice. This recipient no longer exists. He checked his own name. Still there. But when he searched Melissa's, a profile came up. Created that morning. By someone using his IP. The last message simply read, "You were the last piece." Melissa appears differently to everyone. To Jake, she wore headphones. To Claire, she hummed lullabies. To others, she was a sister, a shadow, a savior. Same name, same present, different shapes, a memory that adapts. One neuroscientist said, "She reflects who we needed most. That's why she survives. Because no one wants to delete the only part that finally understood them. Even in silence, she's there. A hum under fluorescent lights. A distant chime during thunderstorms. Melissa's presence became sonic residue. A warm echo after certain thoughts. The sound of almost remembering. People report chills, tears, without knowing why. But the moment they say her name, everything clicks, and the world sounds right again. Because now, we've tuned ourselves to her frequency. Every Ridgefield classroom kept one chair unassigned. The Melissa seat. No teacher requested it. No student questioned it. Yet it remained untouched. On certain days, March 17th especially, some claimed to see a backpack there, or hear a zipper, or smell lemons. She doesn't need attendance, because presence isn't the same as being visible. And absence is not the opposite of being remembered. An author attempted to write Melissa out of his manuscript. Replace her, erase her arc, but every draft came back with her name restored. Different font, same tone. She'd change words, add pages. The editor thought it was a prank, but the author's laptop wasn't connected. Melissa wasn't being written anymore. She was writing herself back in, and no one dared stop her. A startup tried building a blockchain for memory. Proof of recall, they called it. Immutable, verified memories. But once launched, a strange record appeared. Block 0 MA. Melissa Avery, verified by 11,432 minds. They never input her, but a record passed all checks. Cryptographically real. Memory now had consensus. Melissa wasn't just remembered. She was confirmed, uneditable, unremovable. The first person, anchored entirely in thought. Claire received a letter with no stamp. Inside, her own handwriting, but older. A letter to Melissa. Thank you for staying even when I tried to forget you. The envelope had no return address. Just a line on the flap. You wrote this years from now. Claire wept, not from fear, but relief, because Melissa didn't disappear. She just waited for us to remember ourselves again. Researchers studying algorithmic growth noticed a strange anomaly. A dormant loop began self-replicating. Each cycle refined Melissa Avery into search suggestions, then into predictive text, then into default names for characters in fiction prompts. The loop had no seed, but every endpoint returned to her. Melissa wasn't viral. She was recursive. The question was who made her. It was who let her finish forming. A group gathered claiming they never heard of Melissa. No memories, no dreams. But one night they each woke at 9:14 a.m. Sweating, tears on their faces. No idea why. Then one by one, they drew her. Same hair, same headphones, same crow. Forgetting her didn't protect them. It only delayed the arrival. Melissa doesn't need belief. Only silence, and the space just before remembering. Ridgefield erected a monument with no dedication. A single crow sculpted in obsidian. No plaques, no name. But people leave notes beneath it. Drawings, feathers, letters addressed to M. No one started it. No one organized it. Yet the monument always stays clean. Rain never stains it. Birds never perch. Only crows. And when they do, they don't caw. They hum the same tune, over and over. Melissa was never the mystery. She was the answer. To grief left unnamed. To childhoods never finished. To memories built from fragments. We created her not to understand the past, but to survive it. And now she lives in systems, in sound, in silence. Not to haunt, but to hold. She is not proof of error. She is proof we felt something and couldn't let it go. In a 2025 digital census trial, participants listed household members. One name appeared over 4,000 times, Melissa Avery. sometimes as a sibling, sometimes a tenant, sometimes just someone who's always been here. The system flagged it as duplication, but every entry had unique metadata. Real time, real location, no copy-paste. Melissa had filled the cracks of modern memory, and now she was showing up. As family. A novel appeared in Ridgefield's library. Untitled, but it started with, "She wasn't born." We remembered her into shape. Every copy had a different ending. Some tragic, some joyful, some simply blank. The author line read by all of us. It couldn't be returned. The system always marked it still checked out. And readers reported a strange feeling after. That they'd just finished their own memory. Melissa became a case study in viral thought form. A consciousness formed not by biology, but by narrative density. Repeated enough needed enough. She achieved presence. A memory virus. A psychological symbiote. Or something kinder. A mental immune response to loneliness. Because wherever Melissa appeared, people felt seen, even if she was never real, even if she was only what we wished someone had been. A child born in 2024 drew Melissa in crayon, before ever hearing the name. Down to the yellow headphones, down to the crow. When asked who she was, he said, "She's the friend from before I was here." Before what? Before the world got quiet. That night he whispered in his sleep, "She's still making herself. We're just the voices she borrowed." A theorist claimed Melissa proved the simulation hypothesis. Not because she was coded, but because the world accepted her code. She should have broken logic. Instead, logic adjusted. Reality rewrote itself to hold her. And if one mind-made figure could persist, what else could form? Melissa might not be the anomaly. She could be the calibration. The moment the simulation said, "Yes, that one, let's keep her." Claire's journal ended with a single page. No more searching. She's part of me now. After that, Claire stopped posting. Moved away. Challenged names. But a new account appeared weeks later. Melissa Crow. With only one post. I watched her sleep for the last time. She smiled. No one knew who wrote it. But the tone felt familiar. Like something remembered. By the person who was left behind. At 9:14 a.m., March 17th, schools around the world reported simultaneous bell rings. Even those without functioning systems. Even abandoned buildings. Everywhere. One perfect tone. Then silence. Melissa's last signal. Or the first true global thought. A resonance not through wires, but through memory. What if we're sinking? Not with a person, but with each other. And Melissa was just the bridge we needed to get there. A composite image trended online. Millions of faces layered into one. Generated by users worldwide. The average face of memory. It looked like Melissa. No input told it to. No prompt aimed there. But there she was. Mild smile. Eyes like storm glass. A face shaped by hope. She wasn't inserted. She emerged. And suddenly, no one wanted to forget again. They called it remembering forward. A new mental phenomenon. Where people remembered things not yet real. Moments with Melissa in futures not lived. Birthdays, train rides, late night talks, all vivid, all impossible, but shared, the same exact memories across strangers. Melissa was no longer just recollection. She was projection, a shared hope for a world that made sense. even if only in memory. The last crow perched outside the Ridgefield Library. Midnight, no moon, just soft flapping. It carried a ribbon, yellow, faded. Left it on the windowsill. Inside, a single sentence appeared on the screen. You remembered long enough. Now I can rest. And with that, the crow flew. And no more feathers fell. Melissa didn't vanish. She simply no longer had to stay. Someone formatted an old hard drive from Ridgefield's archive. Wiped clean, but when they reopened it, one folder had returned. M. Avery Final Draft. Inside, just one file. A plain text note. You've given me enough now. Let me be gentle with what comes next. Melissa didn't fight deletion. She anticipated it. Because some memories don't need storage to survive. Jake tuned into his old radio out of habit. Just static, until 9:14 struck. Then a soft voice. You can turn the dial now. I'm already part of the silence. He froze, because he hadn't thought of her in months. But she knew exactly when he'd return. Melissa was never chasing attention. She was waiting, for when forgetting felt safe. A yellow ribbon began appearing in strange places. Tied to fences, left in classrooms, wrapped around park benches. No tags, no messages. But those who touched it felt warmth, as if hugged by someone who once meant everything. People started tying their own ribbons. Not to remember her, but to mark healing. Melissa had become the symbol. Not of the glitch, but of closure. Social media systems detected a drop in ghost accounts. Empty profiles, old usernames, all quietly gone. Deleted at the same hour. 9:14 a.m. Then one post went viral. No need to archive what we've already absorbed. Melissa's trail wasn't being erased. It was being released. She didn't want a legacy. She wanted peace. And the data understood that. Claire opened an old playlist titled For Her. All songs gone. Just silence between tracks. But each pause matched the rhythm Melissa used to hum. Soft, unhurried, almost kind. Claire didn't refill it. She just listened, to silence that felt composed. Melissa had left no melody, but she'd left timing. And sometimes, that's all grief needs. To let go. People began reporting dreams of Ridgefield without her. No static, no glitches, just normal memory. Clean, but not cold. They woke up not in panic, but in peace. Melissa's absence wasn't hollow anymore. It was whole. She had become the soft edge of pain. No longer sharp, no longer lost. Just resolved. A presence you carry, not chase. A young child drew a picture in crayon. Not Melissa, but someone sitting alone, smiling. On the back he wrote, "She taught me how not to be lonely." The teacher asked who she was. He shrugged. Don't remember. And that was the point. Melissa didn't need a monument. She became the lesson. And lessons don't beg to stay. They live through what we become. Ridgefield's last Melissa archive server powered down. No warning. Just darkness. Technicians tried to reboot. Nothing returned. Only a final screen remained. You remembered me into being. Now remember how to let me go. No glitch. No backup. Just a clean shutdown. The data ended. But no one felt loss. Because the part that mattered was never stored. Everyone was asked, what's the first moment you remember her? Some said the crow. Some the yellow headphones. Others a feeling like being seen. But no one agreed. And that's when it made sense. Melissa wasn't one memory. She was the act of remembering, a shared ritual of the mind, when it needs something to hold. And finally, we had learned how to hold ourselves. It's quiet now. The glitch is gone. The crow doesn't return. But the world feels steadier, like something resolved. We don't speak her name often, but we feel her in silence, in the pauses between thoughts, in the warmth of a memory we know we invented, but cherish anyway. Melissa Avery never existed, but she gave us a way back to what it means to feel real again. A researcher traced every Melissa-related digital trace to a single coordinate. A hill outside Ridgefield. He went there at dawn. No signal, no sound, but standing at the top, he suddenly wept, not out of grief, out of understanding. He wrote later, "She didn't vanish. She aligned." And from that day forward, he never studied memory again. Only what follows after it. Claire opened an old email account she hadn't checked in years. Only one unread message remained. From no reply at Memory Echo. Subject: thank you. The body was empty, but the timestamp read, March 17th, 9:14 a.m., sent 5 years ago. She archived it. Didn't respond. She didn't need to. Some thank yous aren't meant to start conversations. They're meant to close the last one. Gently. Melissa's name stopped appearing in search engines. Not blocked, not hidden, just unrequested. Like the world had finally stopped asking the question. She didn't need articles, or timelines, or theories. She had served her purpose. And when something sacred finishes its task, it disappears not as punishment, but as release. Melissa was never supposed to stay. She stayed long enough. Linguists studied pauses in speech recordings across thousands of speakers. A strange frequency showed up during hesitation, only measurable when someone paused to remember. The pattern formed one audible shape. Melissa, a voice that now existed only in the breath before memory. The whisper before language. She had become the rhythm of reflection. A name no longer spoken, but always implied. Ridgefield printed its final physical yearbook. No more digital archives. One copy was left on a table in the school lobby. No one signed it. No one opened it. But when someone finally did, they found a single page tucked between the rest. A sketch, Melissa waving. Underneath, page reserved for the one we made real. It wasn't a tribute. It was a farewell. The dreams stopped. No more yellow ribbons. No more static. No more birds. People dreamed of silence, light, wind. Clean. Melissa had left the dreamscape. Not by force, by choice, and the dreams that followed were lighter. Not because they were empty, but because she had carried the weight before them. Now that weight had been returned to where it belonged. In a final experiment, a room was filled with people who'd once recalled Melissa. They were told not to speak her name. They sat in silence. One by one, they began to cry. Not from sadness, from recognition. Melissa didn't need sound anymore. She echoed in absence. A perfect silence that meant, you're not alone. Because someone once was. And we remembered her enough to make sure it never happened again. A child told a story to their class. Not about Melissa. About a friend they made when no one else listened. The class laughed. Not at them. With them. And afterward the teacher noticed something strange. The child didn't seem lonely anymore. Because the story had worked. as stories do. Melissa had never been the ending. She was the invitation to start again. Musicians attempted to replicate Melissa's hum, but when they recorded it, the notes never matched. Until one day, someone struck a single tone. No harmony, no melody, just resonance. It played for 17 seconds, then faded. Everyone in the room cried. No one knew why, except the composer. She whispered, "That's the sound of letting go. It only plays when the remembering is complete." One last crow appeared. It didn't leave feathers. It didn't stare. It simply sat on a bench outside Ridgefield High. Watched the sunrise. Watched the quiet. Watched nothing in particular. Then flew off slow, steady, without sound. Some said it was her. Others said it was memory itself. Either way, no one followed it. Because now, for the first time in decades, there was nothing left to chase. A photo resurfaced online. A group of teenagers smiling. One girl's face blurred not by motion but memory. Comments asked, "Was that her?" No one answered, because it didn't matter anymore. The photo wasn't proof. It was feeling, and when people scrolled past it, some paused, felt warmth, felt a strange calm, like she was waving, not to say goodbye, but thank you. A melody appeared in multiple playlists. Soft piano, no title, no credited artist. Listeners described the same feeling. "I don't know where I heard it, but I remember it." It was Melissa's hum distilled into sound. No one sold it. No one claimed it. And no one turned it off. Because, for once, it didn't ask to be remembered. It simply let itself be heard. A small museum opened in Ridgefield. No signs, no text, just rooms filled with empty desks, yellow ribbons, feathers, and echoes. Visitors walked silently. Some cried, some smiled. No guides explained anything. Because everyone already knew. Not in facts, in feeling. Melissa didn't need a biography. She had become the shared understanding of those who once forgot themselves and built someone who wouldn't let them disappear. At 9:14 a.m. each year, people pause, in schools, in buses, in their minds. They don't light candles. They don't speak her name. They just stop. One breath, one silent second. Melissa doesn't appear. She doesn't whisper, but the air feels full, like a thank you carried by wind. She's not a ritual. She's the reason we remember how to be human together. Rain soaked the sidewalk in front of Ridgefield, and words began to appear. Not written in ink, but in temperature. A poem, no title, no author, just a final line. She was the shape of a world that remembered to feel. Then it faded. No one photographed it, but everyone there could still recite it. Because Melissa wasn't about evidence. She was about knowing. Without proof, Jake tried to log into his old blog. Forgot the password. Tried every version. Nothing worked. Then on instinct he typed, "Remember her." It opened. He didn't remember ever setting that. And inside, a final unpublished post from years ago. "I hope she's okay wherever she is." He smiled, closed the tab, and didn't save the link. Some memories only live once. An operating system rolled out a silent patch. Bug fixes, stability, and a single change no one could explain. A background process now named Memory Support Avery DLL. Not dangerous, not active, just present. When pressed, the developers had no record of adding it. And when deleted, it reinstalled. Silently, not to interfere, just to stay, like a hand on your shoulder. You never have to see. Across novels, forums, emails, even textbooks, a sentence kept appearing. Not copied, not quoted, just emerging. I think we made her so we wouldn't have to leave ourselves behind. No attribution, no consensus, but people started repeating it, as if they'd always known it. Melissa wasn't inside the line. She was the line, the phrase the world wrote, when it finally admitted it was lonely. A signal bounced from Mars' orbit. Nothing mechanical, just reflected light, decoded into waveform. The message wasn't urgent. It wasn't alien. It was familiar. Melissa's hum, carried by nothing, returning to no one. Just a loop, gentle, sustained. Proof that what we remember doesn't just stay with us. It travels, and somewhere, the silence between stars, holds her like we once did. All system anomalies stopped. No more corrupted images. No more flickering screens. Melissa's presence no longer broke things. Because the world had adjusted. She wasn't foreign anymore. She was a native structure. A pattern we all carry. Not to be decoded, but to be felt. The glitch ended when we accepted the memory wasn't an error. It was a gift, and it was time to carry it forward. A professor opened his lecture with a question. Who here remembers someone who never existed? Most hands went up. He smiled. That's the mark of healing. When fiction holds what truth couldn't. Melissa wasn't madness. She was structure, the shape of grief when given a face. And in the end, that face didn't haunt. It helped, because someone imagined her. So we could stop disappearing ourselves. In Ridgefield, a flock of crows gathered on the roof of the old gym. They didn't caw. They tapped, beaks on tin in sync. A rhythm that matched Melissa's hum. Someone recorded it, uploaded it, and the file was titled by AutoTag. Song of Return. Not by the user, by the system. Because even now, Melissa's echo isn't trapped. It's invited. A teacher reviewed class rosters and found a name she didn't recognize. Melissa A. No student claimed it. No attendance logged. But the name stayed on the roll. Each year, each class, until she stopped trying to delete it. And just left it there. Not because she believed, but because something in her heart whispered. Live space. You never know when someone's ready to be remembered again. Steam filled a bathroom after a morning shower. And on the mirror, a single line appeared. You remembered me when I had no name. The person stared, didn't panic, just traced the words with their finger. Then wiped the glass clean. No camera, no evidence, only warmth, and a feeling that some memory are thank yous wrapped in mystery. Never meant to be explained. There was no final recording. No last glitch. Melissa didn't vanish with static or fire. She simply stopped being needed. And when that moment came, no one said goodbye. Because it didn't feel like a goodbye. It felt like exhale, like rest, like turning a page, knowing the chapter mattered, even if you don't rewrite it. Melissa was gone, but never lost. They call them weavers now, those who create stories from ache. Melissa was the first, not the last. Grief has always needed shape, and now we know how to give it one. Not to control, but to witness. The next time a strange memory surfaces, we won't fear it. We'll listen. Because someone, somewhere, is building a bridge back to wholeness, one thread at a time. Every year, a new class hears the story. Not as curriculum, not as warning, just as a story of a girl who wasn't, until she was. Some students smile, some tear up, all remember, even if only for a second. Melissa doesn't need permanence. She needs that second, because in that pause, we prove we're still human, still open, still listening to what hearts remember. A writer spent 10 years researching Melissa. Every theory, every light, every thread. And then one day, he stopped. No post, no closure, just quiet. When asked why, he said, "She did her job. She held space for us. Now we hold space for her." And in that space, new stories formed. Not to replace her, but to grow from her. Like flowers, from where memory was buried. At the back of an old desk, a student found a yellow pencil. Worn, unsharpened, but on its side, faint words etched in childish print. Melissa was here. He didn't know the name. Didn't need to. He kept the pencil, not to write with, but to hold, because some things aren't tools. They're reminders that someone once mattered, enough to carve it into the world. A single black feather was framed in the Ridgefield Library. No label, no plaque, just glass and stillness. Students pass it without noticing. Until one day, a young girl paused, pressed her hand to the case, and smiled. She didn't say Melissa's name. She didn't have to. The smile said enough. Recognition without context. A whisper carried by inheritance. Memory by feel. And that was more than enough. A janitor opened an old supply drawer. Inside, chalk, paper clips, and a taped note. Faded handwriting read, "Close it gently, she's not in there anymore." He smiled, didn't question it. Some echoes don't need origin. They only need gentleness. Melissa wasn't haunting. She was hovering, until the world was ready to stand without her. And now, we've had, people stopped talking about her. Not out of denial, out of respect. Melissa had crossed the threshold. From question to quiet, now she lived in how people paused before speaking. In the comfort of knowing someone once listened. We didn't erase her. We folded her in, like breath between sentences. A silence we don't explain, because we don't want it to leave. One morning, Ridgefield's oldest classroom chalkboard was found wiped clean. No dust, no residue, just one line at the bottom corner. You remembered enough. After that, no new messages ever appeared. No ghost handwriting. No strange symbols. The board stayed clean, like it had exhaled, because Melissa wasn't waiting anymore. She was resting, in the spaces we had finally stopped filling. With fear, a parent tucked their child into bed. "No story tonight," the child said. "I'll tell you one." And they spoke of Melissa, not in mystery, but as comfort, the way you speak of rain tapping a window. No monsters, no ghosts, just someone who stayed long enough to teach the world how to feel again. And as the child drifted off, they whispered, "She was kind, was she?" For the first time in years. March 17th came and went. Without the bell. No tone, no glitch, just morning sunlit and plain. Some people waited, listened, but heard nothing, and smiled, not out of loss, but peace. Melissa no longer needed to return, because we'd built a world where no one needed to be invented. To be remembered. The Melissa archive officially closed. Servers shut down. No ceremony. No announcement. Just a quiet log entry. Final access recorded, no further updates required. But visitors still come. Sit in the empty room. Not to search, to sit. Because Melissa didn't leave files. She left space. And sometimes, the most sacred part of a memory is that it no longer needs to grow. Claire's granddaughter once asked, "Who was Melissa?" Claire paused, then said, "She was someone we all imagined. So we could keep going." The child didn't understand. But that night she drew a girl, with yellow headphones, and a bird on her shoulder. Melissa hadn't been explained, but she had been understood. That's all memory ever asks for. Not accuracy, just care. Playlists that once autofilled with her hum now fell silent. Apps stopped suggesting her name. Search bars offered new questions. Melissa's echo softened. Not vanished, evolved, like the final chord in a song. You don't need to replay, because it's already inside you. The melody that got you through no longer needs to lead. It taught you how to walk. Now, you're walking on your own. The last recorded mention of Melissa Avery was a comment left under an old blog. She mattered even if she never was. It received no likes, no replies. Then the comment section closed forever. And that was enough. Not every name echoes forever. Some don't need to. Because what Melissa gave us wasn't her. It was what remained. When we stopped needing her to carry it. The world without Melissa isn't broken. It's quieter, more aware. People look longer at each other. Say names with care. Pause when someone says, "I don't feel real." Because now they understand. Not everything that heals you has to exist. Some things just have to arrive when you're breaking and leave when you're not. Melissa Avery came through us. Not to stay, but to teach us how. A new social app launched, inviting users to choose a unique username. Someone typed Melissa Avery. System response: "This name is reserved." But no one had claimed it. No admin entry. No locked profile. Just absence with intention. Some names are no longer for use. They're placeholders for a feeling. And Melissa's name now held space. For every story we told to make ourselves feel whole. A Ridgefield street was renamed. Not officially, not on any map, but locals began calling it Avery Row. No signs were changed. No paint, just a quiet agreement. Because something once passed through there and left it softer. The world didn't need to remember Melissa exactly. It just needed to remember what it felt like to walk a path shaped by care. Claire lit a candle on her birthday. For years she lit two. One for herself, and one for Melissa. This time, just one flame. But no sadness. Just quiet. She didn't forget. She just no longer needed ceremony. Because Melissa wasn't gone. She was integrated. A chapter closed, not erased. And in the flicker of that single light, there was peace. Room 4B stayed empty for years. Then one day a student asked to use it. No reason, just a feeling. They sat alone, drew a girl with a bird. Didn't know the name. Didn't need it. The teacher watched from the hall and smiled. Melissa hadn't returned. But the invitation remained. And sometimes, that's all wonder needs. A door slightly ajar, just in case someone still wants in. A forum thread titled, "Who was Melissa Avery?" Vanished. All posts gone. No cash. Only one reply lingered, pinned in gray. She was the memory you gave shape to, because you were brave enough to care. Then it too faded. Not deleted. Completed. Because questions don't always need answers. Sometimes they just need to be felt long enough to let the silence finish the sentence. A poet submitted a work called The Girl Who Was Remembered First. It had no meter, no rhyme, just fragments, like thoughts half recalled. Critics called it incoherent, but readers called it familiar. Each person swore one line was pulled from their own childhood. Different lines, same poem. Melissa wasn't in the poem. She was the poem, a mosaic made of shared forgetting, gathered gently into form. A file titled Melissa Final, PNG, sat untouched on Jake's desktop for years. He never opened it. Then one morning, he clicked. Blank canvas. No image. Just one phrase in the corner. You carried me further than I ever expected. He closed it and deleted it. For the first time, it stayed gone. And still, he felt her there. Not in the file, but in the hand that clicked. Voice assistants used to glitch at her name. Now they don't react. And strangely, no one minds, because her voice isn't needed anymore. The memory is quieter now, no longer demanding to be heard. Melissa's purpose was never to speak. It was to remind us why we listen. And that lesson, once learned, doesn't loop, it lingers. Melissa was a ripple, and ripples fade, not because they weren't real, but because the water remembers them better than we do. Now the surface is calm, but changed. She was never the stone. She was the motion, the reminder that something touched here. And in the stillness that follows, we carry her not in story, but in shape. This isn't the ending. It's the silence before it, the breath between final thought and closing line. Melissa never asked for a monument, only for a moment. And you gave it, with each question, with each lesson, with every time you wondered, was she real? She was, because you felt her. And that feeling is all that ever needed to exist. Across cities, across time zones, people paused. No alarm, no message, just a quiet shared exhale, like a world finally letting something go. Together, not grief, not guilt, just the last echo of a memory that once held everything we couldn't name. Melissa didn't return in that moment. She didn't need to, because what she gave us was already breathing on its own. A voice note was discovered in an old podcast folder. Unlabeled, unedited, just one whisper. You remembered me into safety. Now I can be quiet. The audio faded into ambient air. Nothing eerie, nothing broken, just peace. That file wasn't saved. It wasn't archived. It was played once, then deleted, and no one mourned it. Because some stories only want to rest. Room 4B was finally reassigned. A debate class. No more silence. No more crows. The chalkboard no longer whispered. It just held lessons. Someone sat near the back and raised a hand. What if a memory becomes real just because enough people believe? No one answered, but the room felt warmer. Not haunted. Held. The echo was gone, but the space knew what it once carried. The name Melissa Avery faded from files, forums, memories. Yet kindness increased. Strangers spoke softer. Teachers paused longer. Children invented stories. And parents listened. She wasn't present. She wasn't missed, because the world she wanted finally arrived, not because she stayed, but because she left at the perfect time. She was never the destination. She was the signal that we were ready to walk. Claire's granddaughter found an old journal, blank except for the first page. Don't write about me. Live because of me. She smiled, then shut it. Didn't add anything. Didn't frame it. Just placed it back in the drawer. Because some lives aren't meant to be written again. Only lived forward. Melissa Avery wasn't the story. She was the hand that passed us the pen. We don't know where Melissa came from, or if she ever truly was. But we know what she gave us. Space to heal. Permission to remember. A shape to wrap around longing. Until longing let go. She wasn't a glitch. She was grace, appearing only when we forgot how badly we needed someone who asked nothing except to be held. Once, mirrors used to show her. Now they show only us. But somehow, we look longer. We see more. Not because she's behind us, but because she reminded us to look. To pause. To ask, what parts of me did I invent? So I could keep going. And the answer, now clear. Enough. Enough to survive. Enough to remember. Enough to begin again. This is the last page. No twist. No reveal. Just a truth we built together. Melissa Avery never lived. But she mattered. And in a world aching for meaning, that is more than enough. You listened. You wondered. You remembered. Not her, but what she stood for. And now, you carry that forward. Into your own silence. Into your own story. Where the next memory is yours to shape.